The wind is a living thing here. It tears at your skin, bites at your eyes, drives the sand into your mouth until your tongue tastes of stone. Each breath is sharp, shallow, almost painful, the kind of air that strips the moisture from your throat before you can swallow. The ground beneath your feet is hot enough to burn, but you do not stop. You cannot stop. Your soles are split and raw, leaving behind dark flecks where blood has mixed with dust. The earth drinks it in without notice, erasing you one step at a time. You feel the pull of each stride in your hips, the deep ache in your calves, but the pain is nothing compared to the weight of what follows you. You do not turn around. You don't need to see it. You can feel it, the heaviness pressing against the back of your neck, the shadow stretching across your path though the sun still blazes above. The sky is strange, the color of dying embers smeared with ash. Far ahead, the light bends and wavers, a storm line etched in black. It shivers in the heat, but it is not the heat that makes your stomach turn. You know what waits behind you is worse. Every step is deliberate now, heavier than the last. Your toes curl into the grit for balance, your heels dig deep, leaving an imprint that will hold the shape of your foot long after your body is gone. The wind shifts, carrying with it a sound you cannot name. A low vibration in the air that tightens your chest. It is not the voice of the earth. It is not the cry of any creature you have hunted or feared. It is something else. The air smells different here. Metallic. Damp. Somewhere, water moves, not near, but near enough that your mind reaches for it, clings to the thought of coolness, of relief. It is a cruel hope. The kind that could slow your pace just enough for what follows to close the distance. The horizon ahead folds into shadow, the sun swallowed whole by the gathering dark. It is the mouth of the storm, and you are walking into it with no promise of shelter, no promise of return. But this is the choice you make. Not because it is safe, but because there is nowhere else to go. What drives you forward when every instinct screams to stop? What waits in the darkness that is somehow safer than what walks behind you? Right now, you are walking beside him. But some of you will disappear before the end of this journey, just like the ones whose stories were lost forever. Don't vanish from this history. Subscribe. The air tastes of dust and salt. You feel it catch in your throat, drying your tongue, burning faintly as you breathe. The horizon wavers in the heat, a mirage bending the very bones of the world. It is not a welcoming place. Here, the sun is not a gentle companion. It is a predator in the sky, relentless and unblinking. It scours the plains, baking the soil until it cracks like parched lips. No shadows are deep enough to hide in, no breeze cool enough to soothe. The ground beneath your bare feet is blistering, scattered with jagged stones that cut into your soles. The wind, when it comes, carries no relief, only the smell of dry grass and the faint copper tang of something dead nearby. You worry about charging your phone. They worried about whether they would live through the day. Every moment was a question. Am I the hunter, or the hunted? Behind you, the land is an open wound of grass and dust, stalked by shapes you cannot see but can feel. Predators here do not roar before they strike. They watch. They wait. And then, they are simply there. Every step forward feels like trespass. Every breath feels like a debt that could be called in at any moment. To your right, the earth drops into a winding gorge, its edges lined with brittle brush. Somewhere far below, water trickles. A promise you know you cannot trust, because water here is not a gift. It is bait. Everything alive needs it, and everything alive is willing to kill for it. Above, vultures circle, already patient. They know the math of this place, the strong run until they fall, and the weak never make it far enough to matter. Here, there is no mercy, no rescue, no tomorrow unless you carve it out with your bare hands. This is a world a modern soul would not survive. Your walls, your locks, your lights. They mean nothing here. Here, you are the softest thing walking. And softness is only another word for prey. You are not yet the you know now. Your hands are tools of bone and sinew, not metal and wire. Your voice cannot summon help, only carry across the wind to ears you cannot see. This is where you fit in the story of humankind, not as the ruler of the earth, but as one trembling strand in a web of things far older, faster, and hungrier than you. And yet, this is where the shape of us was forged. Every shadow that passed overhead, every growl in the night, every desperate sprint for cover, it all left marks in the blood that still runs in you. The fear, the hunger, the vigilance, they are the ghosts you carry, even in your comfortable bed. If this feels too far away for you to care, don't subscribe. You'll never understand what it took to survive here anyway. They were pressed into the earth when the world was younger than we can truly imagine. Shallow impressions in ancient mud, not random, not scattered, but in sequence, as deliberate as any steps you've taken today. The first footsteps. They lay buried for hundreds of millennia, beneath layers of sediment and time, until wind and erosion whispered them back into the open air. It wasn't treasure hunters who found them, it was science that stumbled upon this ghost trail. Paleontologists and geologists, drawn to a stretch of hardened ground in what is now an unassuming landscape, saw patterns no storm could make. The process of dating them was not quick. Every grain of soil, every mineral crusted around the print was tested, retested. Radioisotope decay, sedimentary layering, volcanic ash timelines, a slow dance of evidence until the verdict came in, roughly 1 million years old. These were not the marks of Homo sapiens, not quite. This was the era when our ancestors were still shaping into the people we'd become. They measured the prints like detectives studying a crime scene. Each one was about 22 centimeters in length, the size of a small adult or perhaps a large adolescent. The depth of the heel suggested a strong, steady gait, the toes splayed slightly outward, as if gripping soft ground. The stride told its own story, neither hurried nor hesitant. Whoever walked here knew where they were going. But questions linger. Was it one person, or many? Were they alone, or following someone ahead? Was this journey for food, for water, for escape, or for something we can no longer name? The surrounding impressions, faint, broken by time, suggest the presence of others. Smaller feet, perhaps a child keeping pace with an elder. A larger print leading the way. The mud once wet beneath their soles has long since hardened into stone, but the silence between each step is still deafening. Even now, archaeologists stand over those footprints and feel the pull of mystery. The prints face no landmark we can identify. They vanish into a patch where erosion has erased the rest, as if the trail was swallowed by the earth itself. And yet, the fact that they remain at all is a defiance of nature's urge to forget. 1 million years ago, someone, maybe someone like you, like me, took those steps. Not knowing they'd be found. Not knowing they'd be studied. Not knowing they'd be the oldest surviving trace of a journey that began before history even had a name. The trail is not just a scattering of impressions in hardened earth, it is a sentence, written in the tense language of survival. Each print pulls you forward, deeper into a moment long extinct. The stride lengthens, then shortens, as if the walker's purpose shifts mid-step. Was it hunger that pushed them on? Or fear that urged them to move faster? The landscape tightens around the path. Grass gives way to a stretch of bare, sun-cracked ground. The air would have been thick, shimmering with heat that drained strength from limbs. In the distance, the silhouettes of mountains loom, their flanks scarred by rivers of cooled volcanic ash, the ground itself a reminder that safety here was always borrowed, never owned. You can almost hear it, the quiet thump of feet against damp soil, the occasional splash through shallow pools left by a recent rain. Somewhere beyond the horizon, predators move. Some on 4 legs, faster than any human could run. Some in the air, patient and circling. The walker knew this. Every step was a calculation, keep moving, but never too loudly, keep watching, but never too long in one place. The trail passes near a jagged gash in the earth, a river, swollen from seasonal rains, churning with debris and teeth. Crossing would have been a gamble. One wrong move, and the current would claim you. The prints hesitate here. The toes press deeper into the mud, as though weighing the risk. Then, commitment. A leap forward, a decision made. Onward again, into terrain dusted with fine volcanic powder. The prints blur, edges softening where ash has begun to fill them in. The air would have been suffocating, each breath scratching the throat. Still, the walker pressed forward, driven by a need we can only guess at. Hunting. Searching. Fleeing. Then, without warning, the rhythm changes. Stride tightens. Steps angle sharply. Something, or someone, altered their path. If you've walked this far with us but still can't bring yourself to subscribe, maybe you're not built for long journeys. They woke each morning with no guarantee of seeing nightfall. The concept of tomorrow was not a given, it was a gamble, paid for in blood, instinct, and endurance. A camp might be nothing more than a cluster of low scrub trees, chosen because the wind bent their branches in a certain way, offering just enough cover to break the scent trail for predators. Shelter was never permanent, permanence was an illusion that could get you killed. The ground was your bed, and the sky your ceiling, and both could betray you at any moment. Food was whatever could be wrestled from the land before something else claimed it. The men and women hunted in ways we might call desperate, but to them it was simply living, tracking the faintest rustle in the grass, following blood trails in the dust, risking injury for the chance at meat. A twisted ankle or deep gash was a death sentence, not because of the wound itself, but because it slowed you down, and in their world, slowing down meant being caught. Foraging was an art and a science combined. Bitter roots that wouldn't kill you if boiled long enough, berries whose colors whispered warnings, honey stolen from hives with smoke and fire. Children learned early, not through lessons, but through scars and narrow escapes. Every taste, every bite, was weighed against the cost of obtaining it. Predators were not abstract shapes in the distance, they were eyes watching from the grass, shadows shifting just out of sight. The low, steady growl of a big cat could turn hardened hunters into silent statues. And not all threats came on four legs. Rival humans, taller, stronger, with flint-tipped weapons and motives as sharp, were an ever-present danger. Territory was worth killing for, and food worth dying for. Even the birds were not harmless. Some were as tall as a man, their hooked beaks capable of splitting bone. They struck from above without warning, talons tearing through muscle before the victim could cry out. And yet, they endured. The mind of ancient man was not like ours, not softer, not weaker. Every decision was sharpened by the knowledge that hesitation was fatal. They didn't have the luxury of fear without action. Fear was action, a muscle ready to spring, a heartbeat that could shift from rest to sprint in an instant. They learned to read the wind as if it spoke. To recognize the scent of rain miles away. To know, without seeing, when the silence of the savannah meant something was stalking them. This was not merely survival. This was existence on the knife's edge. And the blade was always moving. Not all stories are told by a single set of feet. Look closer. There, half a stride to the left, smaller impressions, barely pressing into the soil, as if made by lighter bodies. Children. Perhaps one clinging to the hand of the taller figure, their step uneven, their weight shifting in the uncertainty of travel. And there, drag marks. A foot that didn't quite lift, the print blurred at the heel. An injury, maybe. Or exhaustion so deep the body could barely obey the will to keep moving. Ancient life wasn't a solitary test of strength. It was a gamble played by the group. The strong shielded the weak. The experienced chose the path. The injured, slowed everyone down. And that meant danger. Because predators, whether feline or human, did not attack at random. They sought the limping, the distracted, the vulnerable. In this shadowed world, survival was a calculation. Keep the group together, and you risk all lives moving at the pace of the slowest. Leave the weakest behind, and you trade compassion for speed. Some groups never decided. Nature decided for them. These prints do not tell us what choice was made. Did the injured make it to safety, shielded by others? Or did their footsteps end, before the rest? These questions echo across time because they are older than history itself. Older than language. The moment when someone had to choose between loyalty and survival. Some walked together. Others were left behind. Which are you? The ones who stay with the journey, or the ones who turn away before the end? Subscribe and prove it. The final stretch of the trail is never what you expect. The prints, once evenly spaced and steady, begin to falter. A stride widens, not the kind born of confidence, but of urgency. The heel digs deeper, the toes claw forward. The earth here is softer, damp, as if recent rain had tried to erase the story, but failed. Something changed. You can almost feel it through the dirt. The rhythm is gone. The footprints scatter slightly, one dragging, as if the walker turned their head to look behind them. Perhaps it was the first growl, low, deliberate. From something unseen in the tree line. Perhaps a shadow cut across the path, an instinct, older than language, screamed run. Then, a patch of flattened grass. Not trampled in passing, but pressed down as if by bodies, a sudden pause, a crouch, or a fall. Were they hiding? Were they ambushed? The prints resume, but now they point toward a dense wall of foliage. The vegetation closes in, branches low, clawing at skin and hair. Here, the ground hardens, the record fading. The last clear footprint sinks half an inch deeper than the rest, the weight of fear, or exhaustion. And then, nothing. No trail. No disturbed soil. No broken branch to mark the way. It's as if the earth itself swallowed them. Some say the path ends because the walker reached water, a river pulling them away in silence. Others whisper of predators so skilled they leave no trace of the hunt. And some, the more superstitious, suggest the trail doesn't end at all. It simply steps into a place where we can no longer follow. The question hangs like a stone in your chest: were they lost, or did they find something? The prints remain. Not as bones. Not as tools. Not as the broken teeth or cracked skulls that litter so many excavation sites. But as moments, pressed into the skin of the earth. Each one is a fragment of motion frozen in time. The arch, the heel, the ball of the foot, telling us more than a skeleton ever could. You see, bones tell us how a body was built. Footprints tell us how that body moved. They whisper of weight and speed, of balance and hesitation. From the angle of the toes, you can guess if the traveler was running from something, or toward it. From the depth of the heel, you can sense fatigue, injury, or sheer determination. Scientists study the spacing between steps like detectives at a crime scene, reconstructing the gait, calculating height, even estimating the number of years etched into that spine. And when they piece it together, the story blooms. This wasn't some shambling, half-conscious creature. This was us. With the same stride you took to work this morning. The same shift of weight you made when crossing the street. The same pause you make when you hear something behind you. And here's the part that cuts deeper: the person who left this print was alive in every way that matters. They worried. They decided. They loved, feared, hoped, regretted. They had someone they didn't want to lose. Someone they maybe already had. And yet, their entire life has been reduced to the hollow of a footprint in hardened mud. It's not just science. It's fragile memory. A memory so delicate it could have been erased by a single storm, a single flood, a single herd of animals passing through. One shift in the earth's crust, and this story would have been swallowed forever. And that's the truth of history, most of it isn't lost because no one lived it. It's lost because no one preserved it. If this person could leave a mark that lasted 1,000,000 years, you can leave one that lasts a second. Subscribe, or vanish without a trace. The wind moves differently here, as if it remembers. The first step. The last step. They are the same motion, a body shifting its weight against the earth, and yet everything that happens between them decides whether that final mark is made in victory or in loss. We return to that moment in the hook, the stride frozen in time, the air thick with a danger they could not name but could feel in their bones. Their skin prickling. Their heart racing. That split second when instinct spoke louder than thought. They didn't know if they were running toward safety, or deeper into the jaws of the unknown. And here's the truth that survives across ages: danger does not always roar. Sometimes, it is a whisper. Sometimes, it walks beside you, its shadow blending with your own until the light changes and you finally see it for what it is. We are not so different from them. We move through our own forests of uncertainty, our own shifting sands. We make choices without knowing their cost. We hold close those we love, but still there are moments when the path splits and we are left to decide, go on together, or be remembered alone. Every civilization since that step has been built on the same fragile bargain, that our footprints will mean something. That our struggles, our persistence, our pain, will survive in some form. But the truth is, most vanish. Not even the wind remembers. And so I ask you this. Not as a historian, not as a storyteller, but as one human to another, one day, someone will walk in your footsteps. Someone will trace the path you left behind. They will see where you began, and where you ended. What will they find? And so, we have walked beside them. Across a barren expanse where wind once screamed, where the sun bled low on the horizon, and the sand swallowed all but the boldest traces of life. We have followed each rise and fall of the heel, each deliberate press of toes into the earth, from the first uncertain print to the final fading mark. In 20 minutes, you've crossed an entire epoch. You've stepped through a story that began long before you, a story etched not in ink or stone, but in the fragile memory of the earth itself. These footprints, they are not just a record. They are an inheritance. A message passed through time in the only language that could survive it. Movement. Now, the trail ends, here, with us. But the questions do not. Was it flight? Was it hunger? Was it love? Or was it fear? Somewhere, 1,000,000 years ago, someone lived a moment so urgent that the ground itself remembered. What do you think it was? Theories will live or die in the comments below, and your voice becomes part of that history. This is Tale of History, where we keep the fire lit for the ones who walked before us. The forgotten, the nameless, the ones whose steps still whisper in the dust. You've just walked 1,000,000 years in 20 minutes. If you can't subscribe to Tale of History after that, tell us in the comments why. We'll be here, waiting at the edge of the next trail, ready to walk again.